Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for July the 24th. Today we are reading together the first psalm of the fourth book of the Psalter, which is Psalm number 90. The 90th psalm has been given the title in my Bible, Eternal God and Mortal Man. We're told that this is a prayer of Moses, the man of God. And Moses, in fact, is going to begin and end this book. He's not, the text in Psalm 106 is not attributed to Moses, but Moses is mentioned right there toward the end of it. So we have a section here, Psalms 90 through 106, where Moses kind of serves as some bookends for us. Many of these Psalms in Psalms 90 through 106 are anonymous, but there are a few attributions, some to Moses, I think one to David as well, at least in the Septuagint. The next Psalm, Psalm 91, is attributed to David, but not a ton of attributions here, not a ton of superscriptions either. A lot of these Psalms are just given to us without much explanation. As I'm looking through here really quickly, I'm looking at Psalm 92 has a superscription. Let's see, Psalm number 98 has a superscription. Psalm 100, 101, 102, 103 is attributed to David. And I think that is it. Yeah, those are all the superscriptions and attributions that are given for us. So a lot here for us to think about as we work through this psalm over the next few weeks. But I think today's psalm would classify as a psalm of wisdom, where Moses is considering the incredible and almost unfathomable nature of God, his eternal nature. And then he looks at himself and looks at the people around him, and he thinks to himself, well, that's certainly not what we are. So the comparison of eternal God with very, very mortal man leaves him with a number of thoughts for us to consider today on this Wednesday. So thanks so much for taking some time to read along with me today. Let me get the text up on the screen and we'll read along together here in Psalm number 90. Psalm number 90, again, beginning in verse number 1. Lord, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return mankind to the dust, saying, return, descendants of Adam. For in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday that passes by, like a few hours of the night. You end their lives, and they sleep. They are like grass that grows in the morning. In the morning it sprouts and grows. By evening it withers and dries up. For we are consumed by your anger. We are terrified by your wrath. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days ebb away under your wrath. We end our years like a sigh. Our lives last 70 years, or if we are strong, 80 years. Even the best of them are struggle and sorrow. Indeed, they pass quickly, and we fly away. Who understands the power of your anger? Your wrath matches the fear that is due you. Teach us to number our days carefully, so that we may develop wisdom in our hearts. Yahweh, how long? Turn and have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your faithful love, so that we may shout with joy and be glad all our days. Make us rejoice for as many days as you have humbled us, for as many years as we have seen adversity. Let your work be seen by your servants, and let your splendor by their children, and your splendor by their children. Let the favor of Yahweh our God be on us. Establish for us the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. Psalm number 90. Again, comparing the eternal nature of God with the very temporary and brief nature of mankind. The psalm begins as Moses speaks to his God, recognizing that he is our refuge, that God himself is the dwelling place. Certainly, Moses would have been prior to the temple. Maybe this was written during the time of the tabernacle. It probably seems like that would have been the case. Some people speculate that this psalm would have been written around the time of the rebellion at Kadesh, where they were not willing to enter into the promised land, and God rejected them. So some people think that that is the inspiration for this particular song, or for this particular psalm, excuse me. But regardless of whether the temple was around, regardless of whether the tabernacle was around, here we have Moses recognizing the covenant nature that exists between God and his people, that God himself is identified as their dwelling place, as the place where they belong, as a place where they can find refuge and safety from danger. Now we think about this, and the consideration of the eternal nature of Yahweh makes this all the more incredible. That this God, that Yahweh God, who was around before the mountains were born, who was the very person who gave birth to the earth and the world, who is from eternity to eternity, this is the God who they are able to have a relationship with. That this is the God that they are able to be in covenant with. And that is mind blowing. That such an incomparable God would be willing to have fellowship, to have a relationship, and to be able, and be willing to establish a covenant with the people he's about to describe, mankind, who God just very very easily returns to dust. And in fact, as he considers the way that Yahweh operates in his eternal nature and the way we operate as temporary beings, in your sight, 1,000 years are like yesterday that passes by, like a few hours in the night. For you, 1,000 years is like nothing. Peter draws on this in 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse number 8. God is just not affected by time as we are. In fact, he goes on to describe people that you in their lives, and they sleep. They are like grass that grows in the morning, referring to people here, mankind. They're like grass that grows in the morning, and in the morning it sprouts and grows, and by evening it withers and dries up. That throughout the extremely hot climates of there in the Middle East, something might grow in the morning from the dew of the ground, but it dries up overnight or during the day as the sun rises, and it's gone. And this a similar type of idea can be found in Isaiah 40 and verse number 8, where the grass withers and the flower fades away, but the word of Yahweh remains forever. Well, here man is compared with that which fades away so quickly. So we are, whenever we're comparing the natures of the nature of ourselves, humans, to the nature of God, there just is no comparison. 1,000 years is nothing to God, where 1,000 years for us is, many lifetimes. So again, how incredible that this God would have fellowship with us and be willing to have a relationship with us and have covenant with us, especially considering the fact that our lives are short because of sin. We're consumed by our anger and by our wrath. Well, why? Well, because of our iniquities, Moses says. Our iniquities are before you. Our secret sins are before you. And our days ebb away under your wrath. And we end our years like a sigh. Our lives are 70 years. And, if we're really lucky, 80 years. But even these 80 years or these 70 years that we live, they're difficult, they're hard, and they're here and they're gone. So who understands the power of your anger? Your wrath matches the fear that is due you. Yeah, we understand the brevity of our existence, and the reason is because of our sin and just the environment that creates, to where we don't live very long at all, it seems. So with this in mind, knowing the brevity of our lives, knowing the sin that you hate and that brings your wrath upon us, this is the request. Knowing that our time is short and that our lives are frail, here's the request in verse number 12. Here's the wisdom that Moses is bringing forth for all those who would worship according to this psalm. Teach us to number our days carefully, so that we may develop wisdom in our hearts. A New Testament text that would echo this sentiment very well, I think, would be Ephesians 5, verse 16. Teach us to use our time wisely. Whatever days we have, help us to use them wisely, to be able to bring you honor, and to not contribute to your wrath or your anger. Help us to not live in our iniquities, but reject them. Reject foolishness, reject rebellion, and live according to your wisdom alone. So here's the plea then in verse 30. or excuse me, verse 13, Yahweh, how long? Here's the request. Turn and have compassion. Satisfy us with your faithful love. Allow us to have joy and gladness. Help us to rejoice. Well, what can do that? What would Yahweh's compassion and faithful love, what could he do for brief and temporary people that allows us to have joy and gladness, to be able to rejoice in these days? What could God do? Well, here's what God can do, verse 16. Let your word, or excuse me, let your work be seen by your servants, and your splendor by your children. Let the favor of Yahweh, or excuse me, of the Lord our God be on us. So take your work, take your splendor, take your favor, and let that be on us. So how would that manifest then in the lives of Moses and those who were serving God during his time, and for us, in fact? Well, the request reworded a different way could be said, let us work well for you. Because what he focuses on is the establishing of the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. It's repeated twice. Help us to do good work that honors you. Again, that wisdom that we're talking about teach us to number our days. Help us to understand that our time is short. Help us to understand the brevity of our lives. And in doing that, help us develop wisdom. What does wisdom teach us to do? Wisdom teaches us to forsake iniquities, to put away secret sin, to put away rebellion, and instead to do good work that honors you. Here's the thing about God. God has the ability to use our work for good during our short lives. But here's the thing, even beyond our short lives. The good work that we do in his name, that might influence others, that might bless others, that might lead to stronger faith in others by our children even, verse 16. Let your work be seen by your servants, and your splendor by their children. So let their good work, let the blessings that you give to them be experienced not just by them in their short lives, but even by the children that follow after them. Again, how does it manifest itself in us? By the work that we do. But what work? Well, wise work, good work, faithful work, confident work in Yahweh. Again, not the iniquity, not the secret sin, not these things that bring God's wrath and anger and punishment upon us, but lives that are defined by wisdom. Wisdom that seeks to know the Lord and to do good work that honors him. So Moses is thinking about Yahweh, thinking about the grand nature of Yahweh, the eternal nature of Yahweh, and he's thinking, listen, if we're just going to be here for a little while, let's use this time well. If we're not going to be here that long, then we need to rely upon the one who has the strength to take the work that we do here and let it be useful for a long time to come. And think about that from the perspective of Moses, especially. Here's Moses. Here we are, thousands of years past Moses. And look at his work. Look at this psalm. Look at the text that he helped to write, or that he wrote and were helped to write. The Pentateuch and the Torah. Think about all the good that it continues to do even today. I would venture, I guess, to say that Moses not only wrote this psalm and used it to teach others, but he observed the truths of the psalm as well. He observed his short life and surely prayed that God would use even his work for his children and children to come and children to come and children to come. And we are those who benefit from the good work of Moses as well. And may we, like Moses, beg God, plead to God that his compassion and faithful love would be upon us, so that he could enable us to be people who do good work to his honor and glory now, but also good work that might be a blessing to others in the generations to come. Psalm number 90. If you have any questions or comments about Psalm 90, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I do appreciate you taking some time reading along with me today on this Wednesday. We'll be back at it again on Friday, reading together from Psalm 91. We're not given any attestation or attribution for who wrote this psalm, but like I mentioned earlier, the Septuagint identifies David as being the possible author of this psalm. But before we do that, we'll be meeting tonight for our Bible studies at 7 p.m. Very much looking forward to seeing everybody then at that time for our Bible studies and our worship together. Tomorrow, I believe, is, let me double check this. Let me double check. I believe we have an anniversary tomorrow for some of our church family members. Before I possibly get it wrong, let me just double check to make sure I am correct here. Yeah, tomorrow is the anniversary of Jim and Sarah Thomason. So very happy birthday, or happy birthday. Well, I guess happy birthday to the marriage, but happy anniversary to Jim and Sarah on their marriage that happened. I don't know how many years ago, so I'm not even going to suppose to guess that, but we're very happy and we appreciate so much them and everything they do for our church family and hope that they enjoy a wonderful anniversary tomorrow. Again, thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you tonight for our Bible classes. We'll see you on Friday for our reading of Psalm 91. Take care and God bless.